Chapter 298. Su Man and Yu Qing's wedding date was set at the end of the month. Right now, the entire capital was immersed in celebration because of Her Majesty's wedding. Su Wan's cold also recovered after a period of time. Right now, she had stepped down as the leader of the imperial family's secret guards. Even the civil and military officials rarely saw the Princess Royal during the morning court meeting. For a moment, the officials in the court couldn't figure out Su Wan's true attitude. The officials on the Princess Royal's side were even more hidden, not saying a word. At this time, there were rumors that the Princess Royal Highness was hurt by love and might be planning to retire. But in reality, the situation was like this. Su Rui, wife, you're going back on your move again. No, you have to let me kiss you. Su Wan, when did I go back on my move? Who saw it? Bai Lu, come and judge for me. Bai Lu was speechless. Master, this servant is blind. You guys show off every day. Even my diamond-studded eyes are blind. The loser kisses once, and the winner kisses twice. Are you guys playing chess? Have you guys considered my feelings when you're showing off your love so openly? As the former leader of the imperial family's secret guards, Bai Lu always thought that it was enough for her to follow Her Highness for the rest of her life. She didn't need a man, let alone love. But now, Bai Lu just wanted to say to the heavens, please give me a man and let me leave this bitter single life. Your Highness. Just as Su Wan and Su Rui were arguing over whether to kiss her once or twice, how bored are you guys? The steward of the Princess Royal residence quickly walked over to Su Wan. The steward of the Princess Mansion quickly walked to the front of Su Wan. Your Highness, the Shangfu Bureau has delivered your newly custom-made robe. Do you want to send it to the bedroom? Mn, send it over. Su Wan waved her hands and then glanced at Su Rui. Okay, I'm not playing anymore. The gown is done. I'm just waiting for Su Man and Yu Qing's wedding ceremony. Right. In the blink of an eye, it was almost the end of the month. Su Rui couldn't help but look at Su Wan. You ordered the gown. Are you planning on going to the imperial city to attend Her Majesty's wedding ceremony? No. Su Wan shook her head. I just want to sing the last scene well. As a high-quality movie empress, I have to do my best. Fine. You're a 3-time movie empress. Su Wan didn't have to go to Her Majesty's wedding, but as a military officer, Su Rui had to go. Ever since he rejected Kai Shuayuan, Su Man had a grudge against the Feng family. But this didn't matter. General Su really didn't care about a small Luanfeng country. It was said that General Lu Chang'e, who had been guarding the border, would also return to the capital for Her Majesty's wedding. This time, all the targets had arrived. Sigh, there were too many targets in this world. This made General Su speechless. A woman wanting so many men, just how unsatisfied was her desire? Plus, how could this be called true love? Shouldn't this be BB? Chang'e is. Wan Su of the dynasty? Lu. Su of the WN, in Dragon in, of the world, in, and comma in this world. Although Su Rui was a military officer and his martial arts were outstanding, he actually didn't have any military power. Luanfeng country's military power had always been firmly in Su Man's hands. In the entire Luanfeng country, other than Su Man, only Kai Shuayuan had a tiger seal. She could mobilize the military in times of emergency. Lu Chang'e, that was a brave general who was good at fighting. Su Wan thought about it and then looked at Su Rui. She smiled and said softly, I heard that Lu Chang'e values friendship and is a responsible man. Ah. Su Rui heard Su Wan's words and immediately thought of the original plot. Lu Chang'e and Su Man had always appreciated each other. They admired each other, but their relationship had always been lukewarm. What really made Su Man and Lu Chang'e's relationship improve greatly was when they got drunk. Wine was really good. It had endless uses. Drunken promiscuity, sex, and whatnot were the most common things. Wife, do you want to? Su Rui immediately had a guess. Su Wan smiled mysteriously and then turned to look at Bai Lu. Bai Lu, I have something for you. Only you can do it. Bai Lu nodded. Bai Lu, I have something for you. Your Highness, please tell me. Hearing that she finally had a mission, Bai Lu immediately straightened her back. Oh my God! This servant is finally going to leave the abyss of bitterness. If nothing goes wrong, Lu Changa's army will enter the capital in 3 days. There's still 4 days until Her Majesty's wedding. I don't want him to attend Her Majesty's wedding. Bai Lu, you. This subordinate understands. I must get rid of Lu Changa outside the capital in 3 days. Even if I die, I'll drag Lu Changa down with me. Bai Lu solemnly interrupted Su Wan's words. Although Lu Changa was skilled in martial arts, Bai Lu thought that if she fought him alone, it shouldn't be a problem for her to win. Even if she couldn't win, it was possible for both of them to be injured. What do you mean by dying? Su Wan smiled and took out a bag of medicinal powder. Here. Take this and do it for me. Bai Lu was speechless. You don't mean what I think you mean, right? Your Highness, you're telling me to be a hooligan? Plus, I'm doing this to a general who commands thousands of soldiers and horses. Bai Lu instantly felt extremely pressured. Seeing Bai Lu standing there in a daze, Su Wan couldn't help but narrow her eyes. What? You can't do it. I promise I'll complete the mission. Seeing that her master's mood had dropped, Bai Lu immediately took the bag of suspicious powder and replied with a solemn expression. Okay, go and prepare. We'll leave the capital tonight. Don't alarm anyone. After sending Bai Lu away, Su Wan felt even happier. She really was the best master in the world. She knew that Bai Lu was lonely, so she threw her the male lead to play. Amen. It'd be best if the two of them played and someone died. That way, the princess residence would be even more lively. Can Bai Lu succeed? Su Wan watched Bai Lu's departing figure and couldn't help but ask. The girl was loyal to Su Wan, but Su Rui could tell that Bai Lu was a simple-minded girl. She was definitely slow in reacting to feelings. She definitely won't be able to do it if you want her to silently care for you like how she chases after Snow. But if you want her to force herself on you, she can do it. She's skilled at it. Cough. Of course, Su Wan was referring to Bai Lu's attitude when she was carrying out missions as an Imperial Guard. This girl never knew how to be soft. She only knew how to be hard. The reason why Su Wan chose Bai Lu was because she was inspired by General Su in the past. Male leads were all high-quality stocks. Good things shouldn't flow to outsiders. Therefore, before a certain male lead could return to the capital, he was schemed against by Master Su and his heart felt cold. Of course, this method could only be used to deal with people like Lu Changa or Li Xiao who weren't close to the Empress. If it was Liu Luo or Yu Qing, they would use another method. Yu Qing. Thinking of Yu Qing, Su Wan couldn't help but narrow her eyes. She put in a lot of effort for this scene. Right now, she was just lacking the last strong medicine. Chapter 299. April 29th, Su Man's wedding. The Empress's wedding was unprecedentedly grand. According to Luanfeng country's rules, the Empress's wedding ceremony had to start in the morning and end at dusk. As one of the people involved in the wedding ceremony, Yu Qing was at the Princess Royal Residence right now. That's right. He used to be from the Princess Royal Residence, so the Princess Royal Residence counted as his maiden home. Although Su Man and Su Wan didn't get along, Su Wan had handed over her authority as a secret Imperial Guard. As for her insistence on sending Yu Qing off to get married, Su Man naturally agreed. Therefore, the carriage from the Imperial City would come directly to the Princess Royal Residence to pick up the bride. Actually, Su Man was testing Su Wan. If Su Wan really had some schemes up her sleeves, she should have revealed her foxtail by now, right? At this time, the morning light had broken and the entire Princess Royal Residence was lit up in a festive red. Yu Qing was wearing a bright red official robe and sitting quietly in his room when he suddenly heard the melodious sound of a zither. Hearing the melancholic music, Yu Qing's heart moved. He subconsciously stood up and pushed the door open. The spring breeze brushed past his face and the petals fell in profusion. Pure white pear blossoms were blooming all over the branches. Under that piece of snow white, Su Wan, who was wearing a bright red phoenix gown, had her makeup on and her phoenix eyes were slightly drooping. She was playing the zither under the tree. That grief-stricken zither sound gradually diffused from the backyard of the Princess Fu, reverberating on the quiet Long Street. This song was too melancholic. Plus, Yu Qing had never heard anyone play this song before. For a moment, he was a bit mesmerized by it. When the music ended, the spring breeze blew. When Yu Qing snapped out of his trance, he saw the beauty staring at him under the pear tree. This was the first time he thought that Su Wan was really beautiful. She shed off her ostentatiousness, her arrogance, her coldness, and sharpness. All that was left was the purest beauty. Pure white pear flower petals fell from the sky and landed on Su Wan's shoulders. She walked over to Yu Qing as if she didn't feel anything. "Do you like this song?" "I do." Yu Qing hesitated before saying with difficulty. He did like this song, but it made his heart ache. "I've never heard this song before. Did you write it, Princess Royal?" "No." Su Wan shook her head. "This is a song that a hermit made for his lover. The song is called Phoenix Seeking Phoenix. Leisurely looking southeast, a song of a phoenix seeking a phoenix. A phoenix seeking for a phoenix." Yu Qing's gaze flickered. "The name is good and the song is good. It's just that the mood the princess played is too sorrowful." "Heh." Su Wan smiled faintly hearing Yu Qing's words. She lifted her hand and took out a beautiful purple brocade pouch. "I won't be entering the palace to participate in today's ceremony. This is my gift to you. Accept it. From now on, you are no longer a member of my Princess Royal residence." Saying this, Su Wan stuffed the brocade pouch into Yu Qing's hands with trembling fingers. Then she quickly turned around. "Su Wan." Yu Qing couldn't help but call her name again. Why? Just like when he saw her outside the Imperial study that day, he didn't understand why she did all this. Su Wan didn't turn around hearing Yu Qing's words. She slowly lifted her hand to catch the falling petals and said in a low voice, "The Empress has always been in power in Luanfeng country. It's common for nobles to have multiple husbands and 4 attendants. My father was the former Empress's male attendant. He had always loved the former Empress deeply. Even if the former Empress didn't have any feelings for him, he still couldn't help but love her. In the end, he was even willing to die for her. I still remember when I was 11 years old. My father passed away peacefully. I stood in front of his sickbed and screamed at him. Why? Why was he so stupid? He said it was because of love. Because of love. Heh. Su Wan sneered, tears welling up in her eyes. She turned around and looked at Yu Qing. Is that love? Just like how Liu Luo loves Su Man and you also love Su Man. What about Su Man? She loves Liu Luo and she also loves you. She might even love more people. Is that really love? I don't want this kind of love. I don't want this kind of life. Ever since I was young, the former Empress didn't like me because I wasn't the daughter of the man she loved. Therefore, I should be an abandoned child. Yu Qing, tell me, what did I do wrong? I, Su Wan, just want to hold hands with the person I love and grow old together. Why is it that even the heavens aren't willing to fulfill such a lowly wish? In the end, Su Wan's voice started to choke. Su Wan, Yu Qing took a step forward. He had never seen Su Wan this weak. Princess Royal used to be the synonym for killing and cold-blooded. She was high and mighty, she was scheming. Everyone thought that she wanted the whole world, but in the end, she only wanted a lover. Yu Qing's heart couldn't help but ache. For her and also for the feelings he lost. Love. What did it mean to be deeply ingrained into one's bones and never change until death? Su Wan. Yu Qing subconsciously lifted his hand, wanting to wipe away the tears on Su Wan's fair face. However, Su Wan dodged his hand as if she was electrocuted. Don't touch me and don't treat me well. I've already given up on you. Saying this, Su Wan looked at the immortal-like man in front of her. From today onwards, you're Su Man's man. And I, Su Wan, will find a man that belongs to me one day. I don't want him to be rich or powerful. I don't want him to be skilled in martial arts. As long as he loves me, I'm willing to go through water and tread on fire for him. Saying this, Su Wan lifted her right hand and the dragon-seeking dagger slid out of her sleeve. A silver light flashed and a long strip of Su Wan's bright red sleeve was cut off. Su Wan tossed the scarlet satin into the air, falling on the ground along with the white flower petals. Yu Qing, from now onwards, I, Su Wan, will sever all ties with you. Saying this, Su Wan put away the dagger and turned to leave without any reluctance. Despite the tear stains on her face, she was still elegant when she turned around, as if she had become the noble and arrogant princess royal from before. Yu Qing stood there until Su Wan's figure disappeared. He froze for a moment and then suddenly bent down to pick up the scarlet satin that Su Wan had tossed away. I'm willing to be with the one I love and never part with. Yu Qing couldn't help but grip the scarlet satin tightly. He lifted his face slightly and slowly closed his eyes. The spring breeze blew gently and it was as if someone was whispering in his ears. There are trees in the mountains and branches in the trees. My heart pleases the gentleman, but the gentleman doesn't know. When night fell, the bustling imperial city finally quietened down. The red candles flickered and the hibiscus tent warmed up. Inside the new room in the back palace, Su Man and Yu Qing had just crossed cups. Seeing the man in front of her who had few desires, Su Man couldn't help but ask in a good mood, Yu Qing, do you have any wishes? You're my man. As long as it's something you want, I can satisfy it. Yu Qing smiled faintly hearing Su Man's words. I don't have anything I want. Your Majesty, you don't have to go through so much trouble. It's impossible for people to have no desires. Even saints have wishes. Yu Qing, tell me. What do you want? Su Man liked to see Yu Qing's elegant and aloof appearance, so she couldn't help but act coquettishly towards him. What do I want? Yu Qing froze and subconsciously blurted out, I'm willing to be with the one I love and never part with. Chem. Su Man couldn't help but smile charmingly. Yu Qing, so you know how to say sweet nothings too. You're my woman now. I'll be with you until we grow old. You don't have to worry. Chapter 300. In the imperial city, in the bridal chamber. In the princess royal residence, the hibiscus tent was warm. Wife. Su Rui twirled his fingers around Su Wan's hair. You made the brocade pouch that you gave Yu Qing today? Achem. Su Wan answered in a daze, you like it? I'll have Nanny Zhong embroider a few more for you tomorrow. Her skills are really good. If we sell it at Bright Embroidery Workshop, it'll probably be worth 5 taels of silver. General Su was speechless. So the thing that Master Yu treasured his entire life was only worth 5 taels of silver. Okay, people who didn't know the truth were lucky too. The next day, Su Wan and Su Rui woke up really late. Her Majesty's wedding was over for 3 days. The officials in the capital also welcomed a rare 3-day holiday. Liu Ying. Su Wan got up and couldn't help but call out softly. Liu Ying was just unreliable. Suddenly, she missed Bai Lu a lot. Your Highness. At this moment, a slender figure rushed in like the wind. Ah, Bai Lu. Su Wan froze seeing Bai Lu's face. When did you come back? Your Highness, this servant came back last night. Because it was too late, this servant didn't dare to disturb you and the military officer. Bai Lu immediately answered respectfully. Oh. Then what about Lu Chang'e? Su Wan asked with a smile while tidying up her clothes. Bai Lu couldn't help but smile foolishly hearing Su Wan mention General Lu's name. General went back to the residence to pack his luggage. He'll come to the Princess Royal residence in the afternoon to propose. Chem. Su Wan lifted her brows. Is he proposing or proposing? This, Bai Lu froze hearing Su Wan's question. This servant doesn't know. I'll follow your orders. It wasn't wrong for Lu Chang'e to propose with his identity, but if Su Wan didn't agree, then he could only propose. Speaking of which, Su Wan had only heard of Lu Chang'e's name but never seen him. Today, she wanted to see just what kind of person he was. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, Su Rui ate at the princess residence and then returned to the great military office alone. Right now, only the confidants in the princess residence knew about his relationship with Su Wan. Even Madame Feng didn't know about it in the Feng family. However, After such a long time, General Su didn't mind waiting for the last few days. Just after noon, Lu Chang'e dressed neatly and brought the visiting card to the entrance of the Princess Royal residence. As a direct descendant of Suman, this was the first time Lu Chang'e visited the Princess Royal residence as a private person. General Lu's thoughts were very complicated. Life was like a drama, there were no spoilers. Before Lu Chang'e returned to the capital this time, he only wanted to attend Her Majesty's wedding and then stay in the capital for a few more days to accompany his family, who knew that he would be ambushed by Lu on his way back. When Lu was mentioned, Lu Chang'e's emotions became even more complicated. He was a great general who had led millions of soldiers and killed countless people, yet he had been tricked by a woman in the end. Whom, of course, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Lu Chang'e was a simple person. He was the type of person who was honest and simple. If you treat me well, I'll treat you well too. Now that Lu was his woman, General Lu felt that he had to take responsibility because he was a man, right? However, when he arrived at the entrance of the Princess Royal residence, Lu Chang'e felt apprehensive. Even if he was willing to marry Lu, would the Princess Royal agree? According to Luanfeng country's rules, Lu was a third-rank female official. Although her official rank was lower than his, she had the Princess Royal's support. Plus, she was a woman. If the Princess Royal didn't allow her to marry, did he, a great general, have to marry her? Thinking of this, Lu Chang'e felt conflicted. In the end, he still walked through the entrance of the Princess Royal residence, reception room. Su Wn wore a dark purple palace dress and smiled at the nervous Lu Chang'e. General Lu, you're joking with me, right? You're asking to marry Lu. What right do you have to mention the word marry in front of me? Lu Chang'e's expression changed hearing Su Wan's words. The Princess Royal had been arrogant and mean for a long time. He was mentally prepared for this. Your Highness. Lu Chang'e slowly stood up and looked at Su Wn seriously. If Your Highness is willing to help me, this official will naturally be grateful. If Your Highness feels that this isn't appropriate, then, this official is willing to marry you. Oh! Su Wan's phoenix eyes flickered with a trace of a smile. Lu Chang'e, you're the general of the imperial court. As a man who has fought on the battlefield, are you really willing to lower yourself to marry someone of lower status? There's no need to put myself down. This official is willing to take responsibility for Lu. We're both together. What's the difference between marrying or marrying? Lu Chang'e was very clear about this matter. Lu Chang'e, if you marry Lu, I'm afraid His Majesty will never trust you again. Have you thought about this? Su Wan stared at Lu Chang'e's eyes and continued to ask. Her Majesty, Lu Chang'e hesitated. I joined the battlefield to serve the country. Even if I don't become a general in the future, it's the same as being a soldier. Okay. Su Wan stood up and clapped her hands. General Lu, Lu didn't misjudge you. I'm also relieved to let her marry you. Actually, you're right. As long as the two of them are together and have the same thoughts, there's no difference between marrying or marrying. Your Highness. Lu Chang'e was surprised to see Su Wan agree to marry Lu to him so readily. Of course, he had just returned to the capital and hadn't heard about the Princess Royal's tragic love story. Later on, he found out about Su Wan and Yu Qing. He couldn't help but sigh. Princess Royal was a sentimental person. Everyone had wronged her in the past. After the news of Lu and Lu Chang'e getting married spread from the Princess Royal residence, everyone in the capital's officialdom was stunned. After all, Lu Chang'e was the emperor's direct descendant. Now that he was marrying the Princess Royal's person, there was a huge mystery behind this. Su Man, who had just gotten married, was originally feeling proud of herself. But after hearing that Lu Chang'e was going to marry Lu, she immediately felt terrible. Putting aside the fact that she admired and liked Lu Chang'e, even if he was a normal general, she couldn't let him fall into Su Wan's camp. Because of this, Su Man summoned Lu Chang'e to the palace several times. She wanted to dispel Lu Chang'e's thoughts of marrying Lu, but Lu Chang'e was too upright and stubborn. No matter what Su Man said, he wouldn't give up on the marriage. In the end, in order to make Su Man feel at ease, Lu Chang'e took off his official robes in the imperial study and resigned. Voila. When Yu Qing walked into Qingning Palace, Su Man was throwing a teacup on the ground with a dark expression. A bunch of useless people. Your Majesty, please calm down. A group of servants knelt in the palace. Su Man wanted to continue getting angry, but seeing Yu Qing come in, she waved her hands and had them leave. Your Majesty, are you still angry about General Lu? Yu Qing walked forward and looked at Su Man gently. Hearing his words, Su Man couldn't help but sneer. Heh. I don't know what the Princess Royal residence did to Lu Chang'e, but he's willing to resign to marry Bai Lu. He really doesn't know what's good for him. It's a waste that I've admired him so much. I really want to see how he can go to the Princess Royal residence to ask for her hand in marriage when he has nothing at all. Su Man predicted that this was all part of Su Wan's plot. If Lu Chang'e was useless, would she still marry her confidant, Bai Lu, to him? Chapter 301. Yu Qing was shocked to hear Su Man's words. In order to get married, Lu Chang'e was willing to give up his official position. Men's status in Luanfeng country was generally lower than women. He was a general, so he barely had the right to marry Bai Lu. If he lost everything, would Bai Lu still be willing to marry him? Even if she was willing, would the Princess Royal be willing? Yu Qing's gaze became dazed, thinking of Su Wan. If it was Su Wan, she might. Your Majesty, what if the Princess Royal is really willing? Yu Qing suddenly asked. Impossible. Su Man subconsciously blurted out, how could Su Wan marry her confidant to a commoner? No matter how skilled Lu Chang'e is in martial arts, he's just a piece of trash without the official position I gave him. So what if he's skilled in martial arts? Luanfeng country's women all practiced martial arts. There were plenty of people who were skilled in martial arts. Lu Chang'e was a genius at leading troops, but after leaving the military camp, he was no different from ordinary men. Su Man believed that she was the only one in the world who could give Lu Chang'e the life he wanted. If he resigned today, he would definitely regret it and come back to beg her. He definitely would. A piece of trash without any value. Yu Qing's gaze darkened hearing Su Man's words. The imperial city was filled with scheming and deceiving people. Anyone with no value would be kicked away. Then, what was he in Her Majesty's heart? Was he the spoils of war that she snatched from the Princess Royal? Su Man sent people to spread the news of Lu Chang'e's resignation. The entire capital knew about this. Lu family wasn't a noble family. The reason why the family could barely survive in the capital was because of Lu Chang'e's efforts on the battlefield. Now that he resigned, Lu family's situation returned to normal. Thankfully, Lu Chang'e's parents and his sister Lu Yuqing didn't care about fame and fortune. The Lu family didn't care much about this. The two elders were just afraid that the Princess Royal residence would go back on their words. No, Her Highness isn't that kind of person. Although they were on opposing sides in the past, Lu Chang'e had a lot of confidence in her this time. That's right. Lu Yuqing couldn't help but lift her brows. Princess Royal values friendship the most. Everyone in the capital knows that. She's definitely not that kind of person who goes back on her word. The people in the capital had a better opinion of Su Wan. However, the officials in the imperial court didn't think highly of Lu Chang'e and Bai Lu's marriage. In the officialdom, it would be difficult to move forward without a black heart. Liu Xiong, what do you think of this matter? Liu Xian was famous for his foresight and scheming. He was also quite popular in the court, especially among the male officials. He was already a leading figure of his generation. Looking at the expectant and nervous eyes of the surrounding male officials, Liu Xian just smiled faintly. There will be news from the princess's mansion soon. Why are you so anxious? It's not like you are getting married. Actually, men who could enter the imperial court and become officials all had ambitions. Now that something like this had happened to Lu Chang'e, it was natural for them to be worried and worried. While everyone was waiting, the news from the Princess Royal's residence finally came. This time, when Lu Chang'e married Bai Lu, the wedding date would not change. The entire wedding would be arranged by the Princess Royal. Her only request was that no matter what Lu Chang'e's future was, he would not let Bai Lu down. The two of them, of one heart, hand in hand for a lifetime. Once the news came out, the people in the capital clapped and cheered. They knew that the Princess Royal was a sincere person. In the entire capital, there was no one more affectionate and righteous than the Princess Royal. The officials were speechless. This didn't make sense. Their faces hurt. Could it be that the Princess Royal's personality had changed because of the heartache? Did she see through the world of mortals and no longer seek fame and fortune? The 15th of the 5th month, an auspicious day, suitable for marriage. This was the second time the Princess Royal's residence held a wedding. This time, it was more grand and joyous than the last. Bai Lu had been by Su Wan's side since young. Naturally, Su Wan wouldn't be careless with her marriage. She held it according to the highest standards for noble ladies in the capital. After Bai Lu left the Princess Royal's residence, Su Wan even personally helped her onto the sedan chair. At that moment, Bai Lu couldn't help but cry. "Your Highness, this servant can't serve you anymore. This servant can't bear to part with your Highness. Silly girl, don't cry. You can come back often in the future." Su Wan couldn't help but lift her hand to wipe away Bai Lu's tears. Just as the two were reluctant to part, countless arrows suddenly fell from the sky. A large group of assassins appeared in front of the Princess Royal's residence in broad daylight. "Your Highness, be careful." Bai Lu was the first to react. She protected Su Wan behind her and subconsciously wanted to pull out the sword at her waist. Nani, she was wearing a wedding gown without a sword. At this moment, the assassins that suddenly appeared had already surrounded the princess mansion. Originally, a large group of people had gathered outside the princess mansion to watch the show. At this moment, the situation suddenly changed. Everyone panicked and screamed. Many innocent people died under the cold arrows. Fresh blood immediately dyed the entrance of the princess mansion red. Seriously, they were bullying people too much. A cold glint flickered in Su Wan's eyes. Then she pulled out her sword and led the guards of the Princess Royal's residence to fight against the assassins. The news of a large group of assassins trying to assassinate the Princess Royal had spread throughout the capital. Lu Chang'e, who was waiting at home to pick up his bride, immediately rushed to the Princess Royal's residence after hearing the news. Right now, the streets of the capital were in chaos. "Master, Master!" Lu Ning panted as he followed behind Lu Xiaoxiao, shouting, "Master, are you crazy? You don't know martial arts. Why are you going to the Princess Royal's residence? Why do you care? I'm going to collect the Princess Royal's corpse. Can't I?" Lu Ning was speechless. No wonder no one loves you. If I were the Princess Royal, I definitely wouldn't care about your sharp-tongued Tilda. When Lu Xiaoxiao used all his strength to enter the crowd near the Princess Royal's residence, he saw Su Wan being surrounded and attacked by a large group of assassins. So dangerous. Lu Xiaoxiao's gaze immediately tensed up. He looked around, preparing to find a suitable weapon in case of emergencies. Suddenly, a silver sword pierced through the air. Everyone subconsciously narrowed their eyes. By the time they opened their eyes again, they saw Feng Wuchen in a black robe, his sword stained with blood. He was carrying Su Wan in the air with one hand. "Your Highness, are you okay?" A cold voice rang in Su Wan's ears. "I'm fine." Su Wan shook her head. At this time, two figures suddenly charged at Su Wan's back with swords in their hands. "Su Wan, be careful." Lu Xiaoxiao couldn't help but shout. He grabbed a wooden plank and rushed up. By the time he stumbled out, blood splattered in the air. Feng Wuchen used his body to block the sneak attack for Su Wan, but his back was dyed red with blood. Although he didn't know where these assassins came from, they unexpectedly satisfied General Su's wish to be a hero and save the beauty. In order to make the scene more shocking, Su Rui, who could have easily dodged just now, used his back to take two swords. Chapter 302. Seeing that Su Rui was injured, although she knew that he did it on purpose, Su Wan's gaze still turned cold. Did he really think that she, Su Wan, was a vegetarian? These people dared to be so impudent in front of the Princess Royal residence. The two fell from the sky. Su Wan turned around and supported Su Rui. "Military officer, Don't move around. This Empress, Your Highness. Su Rui smiled and brushed Su Wan's hand away. Don't dirty your hands with these useless soldiers. While speaking, Su Rui's hand tightly grasped the long sword in his hand, and an unparalleled sword aura immediately soared to the sky. In an instant, sand and pebbles flew and murderous intent filled the air. When Lu Chang'e rushed to the Princess Royal Residence's entrance, he saw corpses on the ground. The bright blood dyed the bluestone ground red. Because of the battle, Bai Lu's wedding dress was a bit tattered. Her arm was even wounded. Bai Lu. Seeing that Bai Lu was injured, Lu Chang'e immediately jumped off the horse and ran to her. What happened? Where's Her Highness? Her Highness is fine, but the military officer got seriously injured while protecting her. Saying this, Bai Lu stared at the Princess Royal Residence's entrance with a deep gaze. Not long after, the door opened. Su Wn had changed into palace attire and walked out with a cold expression. Your Highness. The people still gathered on the street saw Su Wn and all respectfully called her name. Su Wan's phoenix eyes froze. She glanced at the people present and then pulled out her sword. With a clang, the tip of the sword pierced deeply into the stone ground that was dripping with blood. Dear fellow villagers, today is supposed to be a joyous occasion for the princess's residence, but it has become like this. Not only has the auspicious time for the wedding been delayed, but many innocent people have also died in vain. Today, for all those who have been implicated, I will pay for their funeral expenses and resettlement expenses. Of course, don't worry. This Empress will definitely seek justice for everyone. No one will die in vain. No blood can be shed in vain. I will swear with my sword today that one day, I will find the culprit and make them pay 10 times the price. Blood must be paid with blood. Blood must be paid with blood. The guards of the princess's residence immediately followed suit. An eye for an eye. The onlookers were all indignant. They followed the guards and shouted again and again. Some of the people who had lost their loved ones were so emotional that their eyes turned red. Your Highness. Bai Lu suddenly knelt in front of Su Wan. Your Highness, this subordinate won't marry you. This subordinate will also avenge our brothers and sisters who died in vain. Jade Fall. Su Wan's gaze froze and she looked at Su Wan with slight astonishment. Princess Royal. At this moment, Lu Chang'e also knelt on one knee with Bai Lu. If Your Highness doesn't mind, Chang'e is willing to follow Your Highness. After we take revenge for everyone, Bai Lu and I will get married. Nonsense. Su Wan forcefully waved her sleeves, her phoenix eyes cold. Today, the person behind the scenes wants to ruin your marriage. Bengong will not let him have his way. Everyone, stop crying. Today is still a day of great joy. I will step on blood and send Bai Lu off to get married. Saying this, Su Wan clapped her hands and Liu Ying immediately walked out of the princess residence. She held a tray and on the tray was a bright red cloak. Su Wan picked up the cloak and draped it over Bai Lu's shoulders. Bai Lu, if you and Chang'e are willing to follow me, I welcome you at any time. But today is the day you get married. You must get married peacefully. With this Empress here, no one in this world can ruin this marriage. Someone, play music. Following Su Wan's order, joyous sounds immediately rang outside the princess's residence. The wedding procession continued to move forward. Lu Chang'e, who was wearing a bright red robe, rode his horse and followed them from the Princess Royal Residence to the Lu residence. The commoners followed along the long street for 10 miles. They wanted to witness the wedding with their own eyes. This was the first time in Luanfeng country's history that a third-rank female official was getting married. This wedding was dyed red with blood, shocking the entire capital and also the commoners who lived at the bottom of society. From now on, the title Princess Royal was no longer an untouchable royal family. Instead, it was a synonym for affection and righteousness in the eyes of the commoners. It was night and the lights were on. Feng Residence's backyard. By the time Kai Shuiyuan hurried over to the Feng family from the imperial city, it was already late at night. She came to Feng Wuchen's bedroom under the Feng family's servant's guidance. Before she even entered, she smelled the strong scent of medicinal herbs. Kai Shuiyuan couldn't help but speed up. When she entered the room, she froze. Feng Wuchen was lying on the bed, his entire back exposed. There were 2 intersecting sword marks on his back, looking really sinister. At this time, Su Wan was sitting on the bedside, holding the Jinchuang ointment and carefully applying it on him. Hearing footsteps, Su Wan looked up and saw Kai Shuayuan at the door. She couldn't help but smile. "Prime Minister Kai, you're here?" "Ah, Your Highness. I'm here to see my cousin." Sure. Su Wan gestured for Kai Shuayuan to keep quiet. He just drank the medicine and fell asleep. "I'll help him change the medicine on his back. You can sit anywhere you want." Kai Shuayuan was speechless. Why did she feel like she was in the princess residence? Wasn't this the Feng family? "Your Highness, cousin, is he okay?" Seeing that Feng Wuchen didn't move at all, as if he was really asleep, Kai Shuayuan couldn't help but soften her voice. She naturally knew what happened outside the princess royal residence in the morning. But Feng Wuchen had been placed in the princess royal residence during the day, so it wasn't convenient for her to see him. Plus, the empress had hurriedly summoned her to the palace at night. Kai Shuayuan had rushed over after she finished everything. Although she and her cousin parted on bad terms at the Feng family, Kai Shuayuan still cared about their relationship. She was more nervous than anyone after finding out that something had happened to Feng Wuchen. Seeing Kai Shuayuan's sincere expression of concern, Su Wan sighed softly. "The imperial doctor has seen him. His life isn't in danger, but he probably needs to rest in bed for a while." "That's good." Hearing that Feng Wuchen was fine, Kai Shuayuan couldn't help but sigh in relief. Right now, Su Wan had already applied medicine for Su Rui. She picked up a white cloth and skillfully bandaged Su Rui's wound. Seeing that Su Wan wasn't unfamiliar with Feng Wuchen at all, Kai Shuayuan felt a trace of discomfort. It was as if her favorite toy was suddenly snatched away. "Your Highness, let me do it." Kai Shuayuan took a step forward, wanting to help, but Su Wan coldly rejected her. "Prime Minister Kai, I won't trouble you. Wuchen doesn't like outsiders touching him." "Outsiders?" Kai Shuayuan froze in midair. She grew up with her cousin and they were childhood sweethearts. When did she become an outsider? "Your Highness, men and women shouldn't touch each other. For the sake of your reputation." Chapter 303. Wuchen saved my life. From now on, he's my man. I'm serving my man. Who dares to say anything? Hearing Su Wan's words, Kai Shuayuan's expression changed. She subconsciously glanced at Feng Wuchen on the bed. Then her gaze landed on Su Wan's face. "Princess Royal, you're wrong." Shuayuan remembers that cousin once said that he would never marry anyone in this life. Even if the other party was a noble lady, he would still marry her and enter the Feng family's door. Therefore, if you want to marry cousin, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. "Oh." Su Wan couldn't help but laugh. "Who said that I'm going to marry Feng Wuchen? I'm going to marry him." What? Kai Shuayuan was completely stunned. "Princess Royal, you're not joking, right?" Since the founding of Luanfeng country, Bai Lu was the first noble lady to get married. This had already angered Her Majesty. Now, the Princess Royal was going to risk the world's condemnation and marry a man. Even if that man was a military officer, this was definitely a stain to the imperial power. "Princess Royal, Her Majesty won't let you do this." Kai Shuayuan had to put on a serious expression. "Her Majesty? Kai Shuayuan, are you using Her Majesty to pressure me?" Su Wan slowly got up and walked to Kai Shuayuan step by step. "Getting married is a joyous occasion. Prime Minister Kai, you don't need to worry about me. When it's time for my wedding with the military officer, I'll naturally send you an invitation. It's getting late. Prime Minister Kai, you should go back now, right?" Seeing that Su Wan was asking her to leave, Kai Shuayuan gritted her teeth and then left unwillingly. Until she walked far away did Su Wan slowly turn to look at Su Rui, who was pretending to be asleep. "Your good cousin left. Get up." "Heh." Su Rui sat up and smiled awkwardly. "Cousin is right. There's no need for that. Wife, you're not jealous, are you? How could I be that childish?" Su Wan turned her face to the side. Seeing that she wouldn't admit it no matter what, Su Rui's gaze flashed and he immediately changed the topic. Do you have any clues as to the identity of the assassin this time? Not yet, but those two won't be able to escape. Su Wan heard Su Rui's question and immediately became serious. If I'm not wrong, it should be that person. Killing with a borrowed knife. Killing two birds with one stone. Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rui's gaze couldn't help but turn cold. She dared to send people to assassinate his wife. She really didn't know how to write the word death, right? He knows how to use the 36 stratagems, but can't we do the same? Su Wan glanced at Su Rui and the two people looked at each other and smiled. Since you want to kill us with a borrowed knife, then we'll beat you at your own game. The next day, the people of Jingdo were still discussing the wedding ceremony that had been stained with blood the day before. Guesses as to who the mastermind was had already begun to circulate. Who in the capital dared to make a move against the eldest princess? Who in the capital had the strongest conflict with the eldest princess? And whose interests would be affected by the Princess Royal's marriage? Everything was silently pointing to one person. That person was the current empress. Imperial City, Imperial Palace. Su Man's expression was dark as she listened to Hong Shuang's report. She clenched her fists tightly. Su Wan agreeing to marry Bai Lu to Lu Chang'e was indeed a slap to Her Majesty's face. But Su Man wasn't stupid enough to send people to assassinate Su Wan at this time and shed all pretense of cordiality with her. This was definitely an unwise move. This matter was not done by Su Man, but in the entire capital, it was very difficult to find another person with such strength and so many elite deathsworn. Unless, it was Su Wan herself. After dismissing Hong Shuang, Su Man stood up and paced around the hall a few times. In the end, she brought people to Liu Luo's palace. At this time, Liu Luo was still practicing his sword. Seeing Su Man's figure, Liu Luo immediately put away his sword and quickly walked to Su Man. Your Majesty, why are you here? Liu Luo understood Su Man the most. According to what he knew of Su Man's habits, she should be handling government affairs at this time every day. Liu Luo, I have something to discuss with you. While walking into the palace, Su Man told Liu Luo his suspicions. Other than practicing martial arts, Liu Luo was also well versed in various military strategies. His personality was really calm and steady. He was the best person to talk to. Liu Luo pondered for a moment hearing Su Man's guess. I heard that many people died in the Princess Royal residence yesterday. Unfortunately, I don't know much about the situation in the Princess Royal residence. I can't immediately tell if the people who died were the Princess Royal's trusted subordinates or if they were pulled here to make up the numbers. Chem. Su Man's thoughts moved. Yu Qing came from the Princess Royal residence. He should be able to tell, right? Your Majesty. Liu Luo's gaze darkened. Your Majesty, are you planning on letting Yu Qing help? Yeah. Su Man glanced at Liu Luo and smiled. Liu Luo, you're not jealous of Yu Qing, right? Liu Luo shook his head hearing Su Man's teasing words. I'm not jealous. I just don't believe him. He came from the Princess Royal residence. Since Su Wan could let him get close to Your Majesty once, there will be a second time. Your Majesty, how can you tell when he's real and when he's fake? Yu Qing's elegant face flashed through his mind. Su Man couldn't help but smile. No one can lie to me. Liu Luo, you have to believe in my abilities. Since Your Majesty knows, then I'll just treat it as Liu Luo being a vile person. Liu Luo looked down and smiled bitterly. Su Man's expression darkened seeing that he seemed to be a bit angry. She had been high and mighty since she was young. Those who obeyed her would prosper and those who opposed her would perish. Who dared to give Su Man a hard time in the entire imperial city? Liu Luo was the first and only one. Was it because she treated him too well? Thinking of this, Su Man couldn't help but sneer. It's been a good spring recently. I'm going to stay in the temporary imperial residence for a while. Coincidentally, the zither I found for Yu Qing is ready. I'm taking him out this time. I'll leave the matters of the imperial harem to you. With that, Su Man coldly stood up, turned around, and left without hesitation. Such a big thing happened in the capital, yet Su Man chose to go to the temporary imperial residence at this time. She was just luring the mastermind behind the scenes to make the next move. Watching her leave without hesitation, Liu Luo absent-mindedly recalled that they were newlyweds not long ago. At that time, he thought that he found the love of his life. Even if he had to give up everything and give up all of his mother's expectations for him, it was worth it. But now, Liu Luo smiled bitterly. Was it worth it or not? Who could say for sure? When the rumors and slanders in the capital were at their peak, the news of Su Man's departure from the capital gradually spread. Was Her Majesty trying to clear her name by leaving the capital at this time? Or was she purposely avoiding? Did the Princess Royal Residence make any new moves after Her Majesty left the capital? When everyone's gazes were focused on Su Wan, she gave everyone a huge surprise. Princess Royal was going to get married. Once this news spread, it was even more shocking than Her Majesty's wedding. Nani? Was the Princess Royal Residence going to hold 3 happy events this spring? Chapter 304. Capital, Chufeng Restaurant. Master, who do you think Princess Royal will marry? Lu Ning saw his master sitting by the window on the 3rd floor of Chufeng Restaurant in a daze. He couldn't stand his funny master acting like an artsy young man, so he couldn't help but ask. But the moment he said this, Lu Ning wanted to slap himself. Motherfucker, your mouth. You're touching my sore spot. As expected, after hearing Lu Ning's words, Lu Xiaoxiao, who had been sitting by the window, suddenly stood up with a huge change in expression. Both his hands gripped the window frame tightly, his upper body almost sticking out of the window. Master, don't do anything stupid. Lu Ning thought that Lu Xiaoxiao was going to commit suicide, so he immediately extended his arms and hugged him tightly from behind, shouting as he hugged him. Master, there are plenty of fish in the sea. Why do you have to be in love with a flower? Master, think about our master's wife. Lu Xiaoxiao was speechless. Motherfucker, I don't know you. I definitely don't know you. After hearing Lu Ning's yelling, everyone on the 3rd floor of Chufeng Restaurant turned to look at Lu Xiaoxiao. Right now, Lu Xiaoxiao really wanted to die. Damn it, I wasn't doing very well in the capital, and now I'm even more embarrassed. Let go. Lu Xiaoxiao struggled free from Lu Ning's hands. I'm just looking at the scenery. What do you think I'm going to do? Are you dumb? I'm going to commit suicide for Su, for that person. I'm not sick in the head. Yes. Master, you're not sick. I'm the one who's sick in the head. Seeing that Lu Xiaoxiao wasn't going to commit suicide, Lu Ning finally sighed in relief. Then he looked outside the window. There wasn't much scenery to see, right? Naturally, there wasn't any enchanting scenery outside. Lu Xiaoxiao just saw the Princess Royal Residence's carriage. If he wasn't wrong, the man sitting in the carriage was Feng Wuchen, right? Lu Xiaoxiao couldn't help but think back to that day at the entrance of the Princess Royal Residence. That one person and one sword were invincible. That day, everyone present was shocked. Lu Xiaoxiao was also shocked. He never thought that a person could be so ridiculously strong. He couldn't learn that kind of strength in his lifetime. So the person Su Wan wanted to marry was Feng Wuchen? Only such a powerful man was worthy of her, wasn't it? For a moment, Lu Xiaoxiao felt a bit bitter in his heart. But in the blink of an eye, he forced himself to throw that bitterness to the back of his mind. What was so great about it? No matter how strong a man was, didn't he still have to marry? If you have the ability, then marry the eldest princess. Alright, actually, Lu Xiaoxiao grew up with this kind of grand ambition. When he was young, he once followed his mother into the palace. The first time he saw the Princess Royal, she was still a little lowly. He fell in love with her at first sight. Then, without knowing the immensity of heaven and earth, he prepared to marry the Princess Royal. He prepared for 10 years, and then, the eldest princess is finally going to marry someone else. Damn, what a sad love story. Lu Ning, let's go back. Lu Xiaoxiao stood up and quietly turned to go downstairs. Looking at his young master's lonely back, Lu Ning also sighed. Actually, The young master was a good person and treated his servants politely. Unfortunately, he was not born with the talent to learn and practice martial arts. This was not something he could decide. Princess Royal Residence. Su Wan and Su Rui sat in the carriage and entered the courtyard before getting off. Although the outside world knew that Su Wan was getting married, they didn't know that the other party was Feng Wuchen. Only Madame Feng knew this news. Madame Feng, who was used to all sorts of situations, froze in the beginning when she heard that Su Wan was going to marry into the Feng family. In the end, she held on to Su Wan's hand tightly, only letting go after a while. Back then, Madame Feng and the former empress were close sisters. Because her youngest son liked Su Man, Madame Feng also liked Su Man back then. Naturally, she disliked Su Wan as well. But the world was unpredictable. Back then, how could she have thought that her youngest son would die because of Su Man and her eldest son could marry the Princess Royal, Su Wan? Fate really made a fool out of people. I think I saw Lu Xiaoxiao when I passed by Chufeng restaurant just now. Su Rui couldn't help but exclaim softly after getting off the carriage. Oh! Su Wan froze. She wasn't as sensitive as Su Rui, so she didn't notice Lu Xiaoxiao. Thinking of Lu Xiaoxiao, Su Wan couldn't help but lament that the world was unpredictable. Two people who both wanted to love but they missed each other because they never crossed paths. If there was a next life, would they be able to continue their relationship? Don't mention him. Su Wan lowered her gaze and pulled Su Rui's hand. Liu Ying has already custom-made the gown for the wedding. I'll take you back to your room to try it on. Okay. While the Princess Royal Residence was nervously and mysteriously preparing for the wedding, Su Man naturally received news that Su Wan was getting married. After hearing this, Su Man froze too. Then she glanced at Yu Qing, who was also frozen. Yu Qing, what do you think Su Wan wants to do? Who does she want to marry? Can you guess? It can't be Lu Xiaoxiao, right? At this point, Su Man couldn't help but smile. But there wasn't a trace of a smile on Yu Qing's face. His slender fingers subconsciously grasped the beautiful brocade pouch on his waist. Inside was the red silk that Su Wan cut with the dragon-seeking dagger. From today onwards, you're Su Man's man. And I, Su Wan, will find a man that belongs to me one day. I don't want him to be rich or powerful. I don't want him to be skilled in martial arts. As long as he loves me, I'm willing to go through fire and water for him. That day was the day of his wedding. Every word Su Wan said was clearly imprinted in Yu Qing's mind. At that time, he felt sorry for her. Of course, it was just pity and heartache. But thinking of this now, Yu Qing felt something else. Su Wan was going to get married to someone else. Together with that person for the rest of their lives, a pair of people. Yu Qing suddenly felt a bit envious and jealous. He regretted it. His fingers gripped the brocade pouch tightly, his fingertips sinking into his flesh. People clearly yearned for something they couldn't get in their entire lives. As for the things that they had but lost and would never come back, they would become the deepest scars in their lives. Yu Qing. Su Man couldn't help but call him again, seeing that Yu Qing wasn't saying anything. Chem. Yu Qing snapped out of his trance and glanced at Su Man with a pale face. Your Majesty, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to go rest first. Saying this, Yu Qing stood up and rushed out the door in a hurry. Su Man couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Yu Qing, do you really still have her in your heart? Leng Yi. Su Man called in a low voice. A black figure immediately floated out like a ghost. Your Majesty. Follow Yu Qing and monitor him. Chapter 305. At the end of May in the capital, the sun was warm and the flowers were blooming. Recently, the people in the capital had been living quite comfortably. Everyone talked about the Princess Royal the most during their free time. That's right. In the capital, you could ignore Her Majesty, Xiong Liu, and Xiong Kai, but how could you not know the Princess Royal? Recently, they heard that the Princess Royal was getting married. All the men in the capital expressed that their hearts were broken. For a noble, beautiful, affectionate, and approachable royal family like the Princess Royal, whoever could marry her must have accumulated 8 lifetimes worth of good fortune. Just when everyone was enthusiastically discussing who the princess was going to marry, the Feng family, which had always been low-key, suddenly began to buy wedding supplies. The mistress of the Feng family, who had not come out for a long time, wore her official robe for the first time and personally went to the houses of the royal family to deliver the wedding invitations from the Feng family. The eldest son of the Feng family, Feng Wuchen, was going to marry the Princess Royal on June 16. The nobles who received the invitation were dumbfounded. "Madam Feng, are you sure you're not joking? Marry the Princess Royal? That's the Princess Royal." Madam Feng straightened her back and smiled faintly at the nobles' disbelief. "Everyone, remember to arrive early." Finally, the Princess Royal's marriage was revealed. The truth caused the entire capital to be excited. From marrying a noble lady from her own residence to marrying a man of a lower status. Now, the Princess Royal was actually marrying a man of a lower status. This was the beginning of a new era for Luanfeng country. When Kai Shuiyuan heard this, even though she was prepared, she still froze for a long time. Her cousin said that he was going to marry a noble lady and he really did it. Plus, the one marrying him was the #1 noble lady in Luanfeng country. She was below 1 but above tens of thousands of people. No noble lady was more precious than the Princess Royal. Yet, such a precious person was willing to marry a man of a lower status. She wasn't the master of the wife. She was just an ordinary wife. In the past, Kai Shuiyuan would have thought that this was a fantasy. There was still half a month before their wedding. Ever since Madame Feng announced their wedding, the people were eagerly waiting for the Princess Royal and Great Military Officer Feng to come out and show off to everyone. Of course, General Su would never disappoint everyone because he was currently on sick leave. Although his injuries had healed a long time ago, in order to avoid his work, he still openly became a disabled person. Every time he went in and out of the Princess Royal residence, Su Wan would personally support him. Passerby A. Today, I saw Princess Royal personally helping Grand Commandant Feng onto the carriage. I'm so jealous. Passerby B. So what? I even saw the eldest princess feeding Great Military Officer Feng in Chufeng restaurant yesterday. Noble Lady A. Do you all know? It was said that it was Great Military Officer Feng who saved the damsel in distress, so the eldest princess fell in love with him. Noble Lady B. I was there that day. Grand Military Officer Feng is really amazing. Aya, if I can meet such a man, I will marry him too. Noble Lady C. Yeah. If the eldest princess can marry, why can't we? The Princess Royal said that she wanted to be with him for the rest of her life. How romantic! Unknowingly, the thoughts of the nobles in the capital had gradually begun to change. This was how the world was. As long as there was someone who dared to eat crabs, the others would calm down and follow suit. Su Man naturally heard about everything that happened in the capital. Knowing that Su Wan dared to break the royal family's rules and marry someone of a lower status, Su Man ordered Hong Shuang to pack up and the group hurried to the capital from the temporary imperial residence. In the end, they were ambushed by a group of assassins on their way. This group of assassins had clearly come prepared. They launched a very fierce and suicidal attack on Suman and the others. This caused the royal guards to suffer heavy losses, and Suman was also injured in this battle. The injured Suman was carried by Leng Yi, and the two of them took advantage of the chaos to escape. Princess Royal's wedding was just around the corner, but His Majesty was suddenly assassinated and disappeared. When the news of Suman's disappearance reached the capital, the people in the capital were immediately in chaos. Capital, Eldest Princess Residence. Eldest Princess. When Kai Shuiyuan anxiously arrived at the Princess Royal residence, Su Wan and Su Rui were eating dinner. Prime Minister Kai, what's the matter? Su Wan looked at Kai Shuiyuan and asked faintly. Eldest Princess, His Majesty's disappearance is out of the ordinary. This official feels that this is the same as the assassination attempt on the eldest princess. It's done by the same group of people. These people are plotting something big. Oh. Su Wan couldn't help but nod hearing Kai Shuiyuan's words. You seem to be right, but Can't you see that I've been really busy lately? I'm not interested in knowing who tried to assassinate His Majesty. As for whether the person who tried to assassinate me was the mysterious person or someone else, I will find out in the future. Your Highness. Hearing Su Wan's indifferent tone, Kai Shuayuan immediately panicked. Your Highness, are you going to watch Su family's dynasty fall into the hands of those traitors? Traitors? Who are the traitors? Where are the traitors? Su Wn smiled and put down her chopsticks. She looked at Kai Shuayuan playfully. I've always thought that I'm a traitor in your eyes. Speaking of Su family's dynasty, I really can't do anything. Don't you know that I'm going to marry into the Feng family and that I'll be the Feng Su family in the future? Saying this, Su Wan couldn't help but smile at Su Rui. Husband, don't you think so? Su Rui nodded seriously. After we get married, I'll resign and live in seclusion. By then, we can travel the world and laugh proudly. Cousin. Kai Shuayuan couldn't help but look at Su Rui. Cousin, didn't you work so hard to become an official in the court to serve the court? Right now, the court needs you. How can you? What about me? Su Rui looked at Kai Shuayuan and sneered in disdain. Her Majesty is on guard against us male officials. Have you seen a military official without military power? So what if I'm a first-rank official? The dynasty doesn't need me at all. Kai Shuayuan, you have military power. You have the military seal. If you want to save Her Majesty, go yourself. I wish you a safe journey. Kai Shuayuan was speechless. She walked out of the Princess Royal residence absent-mindedly. Kai Shuayuan felt like everything was unreal. Cousin, Princess Royal. Everyone was different from what she had imagined. She didn't know if Her Majesty was dead or alive. The court was in a mess. What should she do? Prime Minister Kai's voice suddenly rang in front of Kai Shuayuan. Kai Shuayuan lifted her head absent-mindedly. Seeing the person in front of her, her expression was a bit surprised. Prime Minister Liu. The cultured and elegant Liu Xian stood in the night breeze. Prime Minister Kai, are you worried about Her Majesty? Liu Xian took 2 steps forward and looked at Kai Shuayuan quietly. Do you need me to help you? Kai Shuayuan's gaze brightened hearing Liu Xian's words. Chapter 306. Since Her Majesty was missing, Liu Luo was taking care of everything in the court. As for Kai Shuayuan and Liu Xian, they led a group of generals, planning on splitting into 2 groups to search for the missing Her Majesty in the forest near the temporary imperial residence. Su Wan and Su Rui turned a deaf ear to these things. The two were wholeheartedly preparing for the wedding. At this time, something happened in the Princess Royal residence. Your Highness. In the middle of the night, Liu Ying, who was supposed to be resting, suddenly came to Su Wan's room and called out respectfully, Your Highness, are you resting? What is it? Su Rui's impatient voice rang from the room. Liu Ying seemed to hesitate hearing Su Rui's voice. Military officer, it's the people in the residence who found the unconscious Master Yu in the backyard. Yu Qing. Su Rui's gaze turned cold hearing Liu Ying's words. Su Wan, who was lying on the bed, suddenly opened her eyes. Yu Qing had gone to the temporary imperial residence with Su Man. They were ambushed on the way and Su Man went missing. Yu Qing also went missing. Who knew that after a few days, he would suddenly appear in the capital. Plus, he appeared in Su Wan's Princess Royal Residence's backyard in the middle of the night. Su Wan sat up, narrowed her eyes and smiled. It seems that our opponent is too smart. He thinks too highly of himself. Su Rui sneered. How do you plan on dealing with Yu Qing? Since he's here, then let's keep him. The Princess Royal Residence doesn't lack a mouth to feed. Saying this, Su Wan ordered loudly outside, Liu Ying, send someone to take care of Master Yu. We'll talk about other things after he wakes up. Yes. Liu Ying listened to Su Wan's command and naturally quickly retreated. The next day, morning. Yu Qing woke up from his coma. The moment he opened his eyes, he saw the familiar yet unfamiliar decorations. This was the Princess Royal Residence. He remembered everything here. Many times in his dreams, Yu Qing would dream that he returned to the princess royal residence and returned to the past. There was no scheming, no vigilance, just a simple harmony of the zither and the zither, leisurely and contented. Unfortunately, it was just a dream. Yu Qing was speechless. Right now, his consciousness was gradually waking up. He remembered that he and Su Man encountered assassins that day. Those assassins were extremely fierce and Yu Qing was also attacked by them. He was a scholar and didn't have the strength to truss a chicken. At the critical moment, Su Man hesitated. Yu Qing was attacked from the back by the assassin and then he lost consciousness. Am I dead? He didn't expect that the dead could really revisit the place. Yu Qing slowly sat up and was about to look around the room when Liu Ying came in with medicine. Master Yu, you're awake. Seeing that Yu Qing had woken up, Liu Ying couldn't help but smile. It's good that you're awake. This is the medicine the doctor prescribed for you. Oriel. Yu Qing glanced at Liu Ying and couldn't help but rub his aching head. Am I not dead yet? What are you talking about? Young master, are you muddle-headed? This was the Princess Royal Palace, not the Netherworld. Look at the decorations here. They're the same as before. Ever since you left, Her Highness would send people to clean this place every day. This was where Yu Qing used to live. Hearing Liu Ying's words, Yu Qing's gaze brightened. Su Wan, no, where's Her Highness? I want to see Her Highness. Maybe because he had died once, Yu Qing's emotions were different from before. He really wanted to see Su Wan. He had never felt this desperate before. Your Highness. Liu Ying's expression turned a bit awkward. Master Yu, you should rest first. You can go see Her Highness after you've taken your medicine and rested. No. Yu Qing struggled to get up from the bed. I want to see her now. Seeing the anxiety and stubbornness in Yu Qing's eyes, Liu Ying laughed dryly. Master Yu, Her Highness and the military officer haven't gotten up yet. It's not good for you to rush over right now. What did you say? Yu Qing froze hearing Liu Ying's words. He froze on the spot. That day, Su Man had indeed discussed Su Wan's marriage with Yu Qing. Afterwards, Yu Qing had been feeling uneasy. In the end, a few days later, Su Man didn't tell Yu Qing why she hurried back to the capital. Therefore, Yu Qing didn't know that Su Wan was going to marry Feng Wuchen. Hearing Liu Ying's words, Yu Qing was dumbstruck. Military officer? Military officer Feng? Her Highness is going to marry Feng Wuchen? Yu Qing asked absent-mindedly. Hearing his question, Liu Ying's eyes flashed. It's not a marriage, it's a marriage. In a few days, Her Highness will marry great military officer Feng. At that time, I'm afraid that this servant will have to follow master to the Feng residence. Marry him, not marry him? Yu Qing felt his mind go blank. Liu Ying couldn't help but say, Master Yu, you're happy for Her Highness too, right? Military officer Feng once took 2 blows for Her Highness. Her Highness said that it's rare to find someone who's wholehearted. She's already set her mind on military officer Feng. She's a member of the Feng family when she's alive and a ghost of the Feng family when she dies. Aya, I feel really touched. Her Highness has been searching for all these years and she finally found someone she can entrust her life to. Yu Qing's body swayed and his vision blurred. For Feng Wuchen, Su Wan was willing to give up her identity as the Princess Royal and everything to marry into the Feng family. Was this what she meant when she said that she wouldn't hesitate to go through water and tread on fire? A woman like this had once loved him so deeply. Unfortunately, he couldn't get it back after losing it. Liu Ying quickly walked to Su Wan's courtyard after coming out of Yu Qing's room. Su Wan and Su Rui had gotten up a long time ago. Seeing Liu Ying, Su Rui couldn't help but smile. Liu Ying, how is it? Sir, I've already explained things to Master Yu according to your instructions. He seems to be really disappointed. Serves him right. On the side, Su Wan casually flipped through the wedding banquet menu and whispered disdainfully. This type of person had to think about the person in the pot while eating from the bowl. She should make him suffer. She should make him feel empty. Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rui couldn't help but smile gently at her. Okay, let him live here for a few more days. He'll be able to make it in time for our wedding. Whether or not he'll still be alive on that day is still unknown. June 16th, hearing Su Wan's words, Su Wn paused while flipping through the menu. Liu Xian. If you're going to make a move, you'll definitely choose that day. This was good too. She could deal with everything at once. Su Wan's gaze gradually deepened. Right now, Bai Lu and Lu Chang'e had prepared everything. Liu Xian thought that he had done everything flawlessly, but he didn't know that Su Wan and Su Rui knew about his ambition from the start. Chapter 307. June 15th, tomorrow was the day of Su Wan and Su Rui's wedding. Right now, the entire Princess Royal residence had prepared everything. There were festive red lanterns everywhere in the residence. The night was cold, but the red lanterns illuminated the entire residence as if it was daytime. It's too late. You should go back today. At the entrance of the Princess Fu, Su Wan personally sent Su Rui to the entrance. During this period of time, he often stayed here and was already the male master of the Princess Fu. However, tomorrow was the day of the wedding. No matter what, Su Rui had to return to the Feng family to prepare. Wife. General Su looked at his wife reluctantly. I can't sleep if I don't hug you. I'm not a pillow. Hearing Su Rui's words, black lines appeared on Su Wan's face. She glanced at him and then slowly walked up to Su Rui's side. She lifted her foot and lightly kissed his face. I'll give you a goodnight kiss. Hurry and go back. Tomorrow, there's still a tough battle to fight. Okay. Su Rui nodded and caught a glimpse of a white figure behind the door. General Su's gaze flickered and he pulled Su Wan into his arms. He lowered his eyes and fiercely kissed her lips. Wife, remember to miss me tonight. Liu Ying was speechless. That's enough. This servant can finally understand Sister Bai Luo's feelings of wanting to die. Your Highness, please bestow me a man too. I really can't afford to be single. In the night, Su Wan waited until the military officer's carriage completely disappeared before she slowly turned to return to the residence. But the moment she turned, she saw Yu Qing's clear and sorrowful gaze. Su Wan was speechless. Why are you looking at me with such a sorrowful gaze? What are you doing? Did you forget that you're a married man? And that I'm a married woman too? Master Yu, no, I should call you Yu Xingjun. It's so late, why aren't you resting? Su Wan lifted her brows and glanced at Yu Qing, asking coldly. Su Wan. Yu Qing hesitated and looked at Su Wan hesitantly. I just couldn't sleep, so I came out to see you. Oh, I'm here. You've seen me too. Go back and rest. Saying this, Su Wan brought Liu Ying back to her courtyard. Su Wan. Yu Qing suddenly called out to Su Wan. Su Wan didn't turn around, but she still stopped her footsteps. I wish you happiness. Yu Qing's tone sounded sad and complicated in the middle of the night. He. Who was he pretending to be, a Casanova in the middle of the night? Even without your blessing, I will still be very happy. Su Wan murmured and then quickly left. Yu Qing looked down as he watched her gradually disappearing figure. Su Wan, do you still blame me? It had to be said that every scumbag thought of himself as a Casanova. In love, he turned around and left. He felt that he was absolutely forced to do so. After he left, he still deluded himself into thinking that you would stay there and wait for him. Blame you? Flatten the Princess Royal residence. Liu Xian lowered his head hearing Su Man's bold words, and a cold smile flashed past his lips. Tomorrow, it was still unknown who would emerge victorious. June 16th. As dawn broke, the Princess Royal's residence was already surrounded by the people of the capital. This was the first princess in Luanfeng country's history to get married. This was a once-in-a-100-years event. The citizens who liked to watch the fun naturally wouldn't miss it. Right now, the guards of the Princess Royal residence wore festive red uniforms and walked out of the residence. Over 20 guards were split into 2 rows, maintaining order at the entrance. As time slowly passed, the sounds of joyous music grew closer. It turned out that the military officer residence's team had arrived to escort the bride. The people of the military officer residence also wore bright red robes. The person in the lead riding a Fergana horse was the current military officer, Feng Wuchen. Everyone felt that it was understandable that Feng Wuchen personally came to welcome the Princess Royal. When the Feng family's group arrived, the doors of the Princess Royal residence immediately lit up with firecrackers. Amidst the crackling sounds, Su Wen wore a golden red wedding robe with Liu Ying and Bai Lu supporting her left and right. She slowly walked out of the Princess Royal residence. Right now, when one looked towards the Princess Royal residence from the end of the street, they saw a patch of bright red. Suddenly, a black cloud came from the direction of the Imperial City. If one looked closely, they would see that it was a group of Imperial guards. All of them were dressed in black armor, and they looked solemn and austere. On the day of the wedding, a strong enemy attacked. Su Rui stood on the horse and looked up. He could feel the wonderful taste of death in the air. Very good. Yu Qing's face was pale and he looked at Su Man anxiously. Your Majesty, the Princess Royal definitely won't rebel. Your Majesty, please investigate this. Yu Qing, are you finally willing to come out? Seeing Yu Qing's appearance, Su Man's expression grew colder. That day, I was almost killed. Yu Qing, how did a scholar like you who doesn't know martial arts escape? How did you appear in the Princess Royal residence? You're my husband, but you colluded with Princess Royal to betray me. You deserve to die. Deserve to die. Hearing Su Man's words and seeing her emotionless eyes, Yu Qing was shocked. A trace of sorrow flickered through his face. Your Majesty, so this is how you've always viewed me. Am I wrong? You're caught red-handed right now. What are you trying to say? You dare to say that you don't have Princess Royal in your heart? Su Man stared at Yu Qing, her tone growing colder. Yu Qing smiled faintly and turned to look at Su Wan. Su Wan, Your Majesty is right. I have you in my heart. I regret it. I regret that I didn't cherish your feelings for me. At this moment, he suddenly realized that his feelings for Su Man were a joke. He loved the wise and far-sighted Su Man, not the cold-blooded and heartless Empress. He treated her as his everything, but in her eyes, he was just an insignificant spoil of war. I'm willing to grow old. An arrow accurately pierced through Yu Qing's heart. His snow-white robe was dyed red with blood. Yu Qing's face was pale and the light in his eyes gradually disappeared. I'm willing to stay together until death. Su Man slowly put down the bow and arrow in her hands. Everyone who betrays me deserves to die. My man is no exception. Heh, hee. Su Wan couldn't help but laugh. Your Majesty, you're so mighty. You killed him well. You killed him well. There's a saying that good and evil will be repaid in the end. It's not that the time hasn't come yet. Back then, I wanted to kill Yu Qing as soon as he betrayed me. Your Majesty, you were the one who stopped me. Now, Your Majesty, you finally took care of this heartless person for me. I'm so happy. Saying this, Su Wan couldn't help but look at Yu Qing's corpse in disdain. Unfortunately, today is my wedding day. This person died in front of my Princess Royal residence. How inauspicious. Seeing that Su Wan wasn't moved by Yu Qing's death, Su Man's gaze flickered. Imperial sister, you're so cold-blooded. Yu Qing did so many things for you. Even in death, you don't dare to admit your relationship. Me and him? He's your man. Isn't our relationship that of a brother-in-law and an elder sister? Saying this, Su Wan waved her sleeves. Someone from the Princess Royal residence immediately walked up and pulled Yu Qing's corpse away. Your Majesty, stop beating around the bush. There's always a reason to pin a crime on someone. If you really have irrefutable evidence, take it out for everyone to see. What do you think? Yes. Su Wan was really speechless at this strange plot. But this world was interesting, wasn't it? Su Wan judged the current plot based on the original body's memory. Xiao Qing had been reborn as Xiao Qing and met Jiyu Shuxing in the hospital ward. Xiao Qing naturally recognized the deadpan looking at him as the pretty boy who stole his girlfriend. Unfortunately, he had become the fiancé of his love rival. Xiao Qing was the fiancé of his love rival. Plus, she was the fiancé that he despised. Nani? You despise me? Do you think I despise you? You're just a pretty boy, why are you so cocky? I'm a fair, rich, and beautiful woman now. Phut. I'm tall, rich, and handsome. Just you wait. Once I'm discharged, I'll get a sex change and then I'll steal all the beauties around you. With this beautiful wish in mind, Xiao Qing calmly stayed in the hospital's VIP ward with Xiao Qing's identity, 3 in the afternoon. Jiyu Shuxing walked out of the operation room, exhausted. When he returned to the doctor's office on the 3rd floor, he saw Su Wan sleeping on the long bench in the hallway from afar. Su Wan? Jiyu Shuxing couldn't help but walk over and gently push Su Wan's shoulder. Huh! Su Wan woke up in a daze. Seeing Jiyu Shuxing's cold and restrained face, she couldn't help but smile faintly at him. Dr. Jiyu, you're back? MN. You came to find me? Jiyu Shuxing looked at Su Wan and asked calmly. Yeah. Su Wan slowly stood up. Dr. Jiyu, you helped me a lot last time. I want to treat you to a meal to thank you. Last time? Jiyu Shuxing wrinkled his brows. It was very clear that he had completely forgotten about the incident where he accidentally pretended to be Su Wan's boyfriend last time. Miss Su, Dr. Jiyu. Dr. Jiyu. At this time, a young nurse suddenly ran over in a panic, calling out to Jiyu Shuxing as she ran. Xiaoxia, what's wrong? Jiyu Shuxing recognized this nurse. She was the nurse in Xiao Qing's ward. Su Wan narrowed her eyes and a smile flashed past her face. Because the original owner of this world had a petite figure, Su Wan couldn't see Yang Mubai's shop in the crowd. Therefore, she smiled and shouted, Yang Mubai, Yang Mubai, come out. Seeing Su Wan yelling at the top of her lungs, the people at the side froze and subconsciously made way for Yang Mubai's stall. At this time, a certain street weed who had just crawled out of the pile of goods finally appeared in front of everyone. Although he wore plain casual clothes and his short hair was messy, it couldn't hide his handsomeness and elegance. Wife, you're here. Su Rui smiled awkwardly at Su Wan. You came at the right time. Hurry and help me clean up. General Su wouldn't admit that he was in the warehouse the moment he entered the mission. Plus, he was pressed down by the mountain of counterfeit goods. Seeing Su Rui holding Su Wan's hand and walking towards his room, the onlookers also dispersed in an uproar. Liu Ying stood on the spot watching the two's back view and stomped her feet fiercely. All the good men belonged to someone else. She couldn't live like this. Su Wan followed Su Rui to his small street shop that was more than 10 square meters. As soon as she entered, she saw bags all over the ground. Su Wan was speechless. You were robbed here? Su Rui was speechless. Ahem. Su Rui looked at Su Wan with an embarrassed expression. This, you also know that Yang Mubai just used all his belongings to buy a batch of goods. Do you think this Yang Mubai is stupid? He didn't even leave money for renting a house. It's tens of thousands. All of his assets were used up by him to buy these counterfeit goods. Forgive General Su for being a doctor and a young master before. He could go to the battlefield and cook in the kitchen, but he had never been a peddler before. He didn't know how to sell goods. General Su felt a headache coming on as he looked at the room full of counterfeit goods. Okay. It's no big deal. I know how to sell them. Su Wan couldn't help but smile seeing Su Rui's distressed expression. Let's clean up first. Hang the new and popular ones in a conspicuous position. That way, we can attract customers' attention. Put the old ones in the shopping cart in the front for clearance sale. General Su was speechless. Although he didn't know what his wife was talking about, he felt like she was amazing. My wife will always be the best. The two got to work right away. Su Wan commanded and Su Rui helped her. By the time the two were almost done packing the bags in the shop, the sky was completely dark. The other shops on Jolene Street had closed long ago. Phew, I'm so tired. General Su had never done such trivial things before. He felt like cleaning up the shop was more tiring than going to the battlefield. This is the life of a normal person. Su Wan smiled at Su Rui. She had done all kinds of jobs when she did missions in the past. Being a peddler was so easy. Chapter 3:14. Jiyu Shuxing drove Su Wan and Su Rui to the apartment building. He watched as the two walked in side by side. Xiao Qing sat in the front passenger seat and stared at their backs with a complicated gaze. He gritted his teeth and clutched his patient gown. Xiao Qing. Sensing that something was wrong with Xiao Qing's expression, Jiyu Shuxing looked at him strangely and asked in a low voice, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Hearing Jiyu Shuxing's words, Xiao Qing immediately roared at him. Jiyu Shuxing was speechless. Rude. Jiyu Shuxing looked down and started the car without saying a word. Su Wan and Su Rui had gone upstairs. They watched Jiyu Shuxing drive away from the window. Su Wan couldn't help but smile. "Dear, what do you think Jiyu Shuxing is feeling right now? Does he think that Xiao Qing is special?" In the original plot, the original body Su Wan did have a good impression of Jiyu Shuxing after breaking up with Xiao Qing. However, Jiyu Shuxing was naturally dull and cold. He didn't react to Su Wan's advances at all. After learning that Xiao Qing got into a car accident and died, Su Wan felt a bit guilty. She might as well give up on pursuing her Adonis. Then she quietly left the city by herself. Needless to say, she was just a cannon fodder in Xiao Qing and Jiyu Shuxing's story. Because of Su Wan's existence, Xiao Qing had been reborn into Xiao Qing and misunderstood that Jiyu Shuxing stole his girlfriend. Because of this, Xiao Qing naturally went against Jiyu Shuxing. After Su Wan, the cannon fodder, left, the main female supporting character in Jiyu Shuxing's life finally arrived. Yarou Shanshan, Jiyu Shuxing's first love. Yarou Shanshan was definitely a goddess in terms of appearance, family background, and even her personality and intelligence. She came back from abroad and planned on getting back together with Jiyu Shuxing. Seeing such a perfect goddess throwing herself into a scumbag's arms, Xiao Qing was unhappy. He started to make things difficult for Jiyu Shuxing as his fiancée and also tried his best to slander Jiyu Shuxing in front of Yarou Shanshan. The more he did this, the more Yarou Shanshan thought that she cared about Jiyu Shuxing. Therefore, the relationship between the two women became more and more tense. Xiao Qing still hadn't realized that he was Yarou Shanshan's love rival. He even swaggered around with Yang Mubai in front of Yarou Shanshan. As a real woman and a highly intelligent one at that, Yarou Shanshan could tell that Yang Mubai was interested in Xiao Qing with one glance. So she got the two drunk and threw them on the bed. Then, she lured Jiyu Shuxing over so he could catch them in the act. Unfortunately, Yarou Shanshan underestimated Xiao Qing's fighting strength. What was the big deal about sharing a bed with Yang Mubai? He had even taken a bath with him. Xiao Qing was incomparably calm in the face of Yarou Shanshan's framing.